Hey everybody, so we are going to work on finding the equation from 2 points using a table in this group. So go ahead and get that written into your table of contents. Equations from 2 points using a table. Pause the video if you need to so everybody can get caught up. So the 2 points that we're going to use today are 2, 5, and 5, 11. The first thing that we want to do when we're given our points is make sure that we label them as our x and y coordinates. So the first number is always our x, and the second number is always our y. Okay, so if we want to make a table to find the equation from these 2 points, the first thing we have to do is obviously draw a table. Remember that x goes on the top part of the table and y goes on the bottom. I want to leave a space for 0 because I know I need 0. Might as well leave a space for 1. And then I'm going to have in here 2 and 5. I'm going to leave my space for 3, leave a space for 4, and then I'm going to have in here 5 and 11. Pause anytime you need to. So when I am going to find my equation here, I need to find the slope. And to find the slope, I'm looking for my change in y over my change in x. So remember, we write it like this, our change in y over our change in x. So I want to look and see, how do I change from 2 to 5? So to get from 2 to 5, I need to add 3. That is going to be my denominator. And to get from 5 to 11, I'm adding 6. That is going to be my numerator. So my slope is 6 over 3, which we should all know is the same as 2 over 1. Because we divide by 3 and divide by 3, and that's just the same as 2. Now that we know our slope, we can use that information in our simplified version right here to fill in the rest of the table. So I know that I'm changing on my y's by 2 every time my x's change by 1. So if my x changes by 1 here, if I go down by 1 there, according to my slope, I need to go backwards by 2 here. And I'm going to do the same thing again here and up on the top. Because my goal is to get back to 0. Because when x is equal to 0, I know that is my y-intercept. Oops, this should not be that. This should be a 3. And then when I go backwards by 2, I'm going to end up at a 1. Sorry about that mistake. So now I know that my y-intercept is going to be 1. Now that I have both my y-intercept and my slope, I can write my equation as y equals my slope, which is 2, x plus my y-intercept, which is 1. Okay. It's not always going to work out as nicely as this problem did, where we can get back to 0 without doing a lot of extra work. So using a table might not always be our most beneficial and most efficient strategy, but it will always work. In the next example, we'll look and see where it might be a little more time consuming. Okay, so for this example, the numbers aren't going to work out quite as nicely as they did in the last one, but we can still make it work and still use the strategy of using a table. So for this one, our points are going to be 4, 5, and 7, 7. Okay, so again, I want to label my x's and my y's. First value always being your x, second value always being your y. I'm going to start by drawing my table. Knowing that my smallest value is 4, I want to leave space for a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, there's where 4 will go, 5, 6, and then I will have 7 to end my table. And I'm just going to write slope out here. All right, so I'm going to put in the values that I know. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We typically don't really worry about the values in between our two x's, but you can fill them in if you would like. But I know that when x is 4, y is 5, and when x is 7, y is also 7. So remember that to calculate our slope, we want to calculate the change in y over the change in x. So I'm going to calculate my change in y here, which is to add 2. And remember that that is my numerator. I'm going to calculate my change in x, which is to add 3, and that is my denominator. And I cannot simplify 2/3 anymore unless I turn it into a decimal, and turning it into a decimal is a repeating decimal on this one, so it's not going to help us out as much as just leaving it as 2/3. So now if we go back to our table, we need to work our way back to 0. I know that every time my y changes by 2, so if I went down here by 2, my x changes by 3. That gets me close to 0, but not on the 0. So I also know that 2/3 means I really just change by 2/3 of a box every one time. So using that information, then I'm going to go backwards up here on my x values by 1 every time. And every time I go down by 1 there, to get back to 0 here, I need to take away 2/3. So if I start with 5 and I take away 2/3, that's going to leave me with 4 and 1/3. If I have 4 and 1/3 and I take away 2 more thirds, that gets rid of this third. So now I'm left with 3 wholes, but I need to get rid of 1 more third, so I have 3 and 2/3. I'm going to go back again by 2/3. That one's easy because I have 2/3 left, so I'm just going to take away that 2/3, and I'm left with 3. And I see the pattern repeats right here. I had a whole number, and then I went to 1/3 left. Here I have a whole number, so I'm going to have 2 wholes left and 1/3 left over. So my y-intercept then is 2 and 1/3. So when I go to write my equation, I'm going to have y equals my slope, which is 2/3 x plus 2 and 1/3. Okay. I would like you to now try the following values. Okay. The values that I need you to now solve with your group, the points are 3, 7, and 5, 8. Once all of you have completed that problem in your notebook, come and show me, and we'll talk about moving on to the next group.